Okay, everybody, it was inevitable. AI is officially making its way into my tabletop RPG hobby, and we're going to talk about it. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Maverick Games. It's Dwayne here, and today we're going to talk about AI. But we're not going to talk about AI artwork because that ship's already sailed, and I've talked that one to death already. But what I thought I would do is turn our conversation towards AI dungeon mastering. That's right. I actually took a spin with Google's Gemini to see if it could actually play a game of Dungeons and Dragons with me, with Gemini acting as the dungeon master. Now, it is going to be an interesting little journey here, but I thought I would just give you a little sampling of what it's like. I recently took a spin and I played a very short adventure. While I did have to correct Gemini on a few rules-oriented topics, it was amazing to me that this AI tool allowed me to play Dungeons and Dragons and enjoy the process. So let's jump in. I'll let you have a little look at what Gemini can do and then just sound off in the comments and let me know what you think. I'm really not too sure exactly how one person could actually use this besides playing Dungeons & Dragons solo, whether or not there's a room for it to be able to be used at the table. I do know one thing. I did actually task Gemini with creating an adventure for me, or at least help in the writing of an adventure for brainstorming for some ideas, and it did an amazing job, as well as descriptions, rules, questions, etc. So I definitely think there's a spot for AI tools in a game of Dungeons & Dragons. I just don't know where that lies. But in the meantime, enjoy this little sample of what Gemini ran for me when I wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons. Hi Gemini, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you? What's on your mind today?
Well, I thought we could play some Dungeons & Dragons. Can you run me through an adventure?
That sounds like fun. What kind of adventure are you in the mood for? Something with lots of action and battles, or something more focused on puzzles and exploration?
How about a combination of the two?
Alright, a mix of action, battles, puzzles, and exploration it is. Here's a quick adventure outline. You're hired by a mysterious figure to explore an ancient, abandoned temple said to hold a powerful artifact. Inside, you'll face traps, solve riddles to unlock hidden paths, and battle creatures guarding the treasure. The climax is a showdown with the temple's guardian, a powerful being trying to keep the artifact from falling into the wrong hands. How does that sound?
That sounds pretty cool. Can you make up a character for me, please?
Sure thing. How about a brave and clever rogue named Zephyr? Zephyr's quick with a dagger, and even quicker with their wits. They're always up for a challenge and have a knack for getting into trouble.
Okay, can you roll up the stats for me? I was thinking of a human bard.
Alright, let's roll for Zephyr, the human bard. Here we go. Strength, 10, Dexterity, 14, Constitution, 12, Intelligence, 13, Wisdom, 8, and Charisma, 15. Zephyr's got away with words and a knack for getting out of tight spots. What's Zephyr's backstory?
I'd kind of like Zephyr to be a traveling musician.
Sure, Zephyr could be a travelling musician, always on the lookout for new stories and songs. Maybe they heard about the temple and the artifact during their travels and decided to check it out. What does Zephyr play?
I think I'm going to play I don't know, something that's like a guitar but not quite as big. What would you recommend?
A smaller guitar-like instrument, you say? How about a lute? It's got that classic bard vibe, and it's perfect for travelling.
Yeah, let's do that. And I also want him to have a rapier as his primary weapon for fighting.
A lute for tunes and a rapier for trouble. Zephyr's got style. They've probably got some fancy moves with that rapier, maybe even some performance flair mixed in. Ready to head into the temple?
Yeah, but before that, Zephyr's heading to the nearby town. He's supposed to meet a friend there, and maybe he gets caught up in the adventure when he arrives in town?
Perfect. Zephyr rolls into town, lute strapped to their back, and heads straight for the tavern. It's bustling with locals, and there's a notice on the board about a missing person. Someone who vanished near the old temple. Maybe Zephyr's friend is there, and they can investigate together.
That sounds great. Also, could you refer to Zephyr as a he, him? Just because that's how I envisioned the character.
Got it. Zephyr is a he, and he's ready to dive into this mystery. He finds his friend at the tavern, and they decide to check out the temple together. What kind of friend is he meeting up with?
Well, his friend is not the adventuring type, so Zephyr's going to do this one alone, but his friend is going to give him some advice. What kind of advice does he get from his friend?
Alright, Zephyr's friend is a bit of a local history buff. He tells Zephyr that the temple is known for its tricky puzzles, and that many have tried to solve them but failed. He warns Zephyr to watch out for traps and illusions.
Interesting. Okay, well, I think I'm ready to tackle this. This sounds great. What kind of armor is Zephyr wearing?
Zephyr's got a light leather armor, perfect for sneaking around and moving quickly. It's got some fancy stitching and maybe a few hidden pockets for his rogue gear. He's ready for anything. What's the first thing Zephyr does when he enters the temple?
Right, well, I need to find out if I can find the temple, but you're telling me that it's a pretty easy temple to find?
The temple's pretty hard to miss. It's this huge, ancient-looking building covered in vines and moss, sitting right in the middle of a clearing. There's a big stone arch at the front with some old writing on it. What does Zephyr do next?
I want to go use my history skill to see if I can figure out what that writing says on the rock.
Alright, Zephyr's using his history skill to try and decipher the ancient writing on the arch. It's tough, but he manages to make out a few words. It says, "Only the worthy may enter, and only the pure of heart may claim the treasure within."
Well, that sounds great. Gemini, do I have to make skill rolls from now on, or are you just going to tell me if I succeed or not?
You'll need to make skill rolls. I'll let you know what to roll and what the difficulty class is.
Okay, well,
Ready to enter the temple?
Yeah, let me know if I have to make a skill roll, but I'm going to actually examine the entrance to the temple first. What does the entrance look like?
The entrance to the temple is a massive stone archway, covered in moss and vines. There are a few faded carvings of what might be ancient heroes or gods, but they're hard to make out. Above the arch there's a large, circular opening that seems to be the main way in. There are a few smaller openings along the sides, but they're too small to squeeze through.
Okay, I'm going to make a perception roll just to see if I notice anything out of the ordinary that might be dangerous.
Alright, Zephyr's checking out the entrance. Roll a perception check. The DC is 12.
Right, I don't have any dice on me at the moment. Do you think you could roll that and add my proficiency bonus if I have any, or add my ability modifier?
Sure thing. Zephyr's perception roll is a 14, plus a proficiency bonus of +2 for a total of 16. With that, Zephyr notices some faint scratch marks near the base of the arch, almost like something was dragged across the stone. They're old and worn, but definitely out of place. What's Zephyr's next move? That's right, they're definitely not recent. They look pretty old and worn down.
Okay, well that's a good sign of danger. I'm going to pull out my rapier and be prepared for anything that might be beyond the entrance.
Alright, Zephyr's got his rapier ready. He steps into the archway, and the air gets noticeably cooler and heavier. The carvings on the walls seem to twist and writhe in the dim light, and there's a faint, rhythmic thumping sound coming from deeper inside the temple. What does Zephyr do?
I'd like to use my insight. What does it mean when the air gets cooler and heavier? I don't know what that means.
Alright, Zephyr's using his insight. The air getting cooler and heavier could mean a few things. It might be a magical effect, a change in the environment, or even a sign that something's lurking nearby. What's Zephyr's next move?
Well, I am human, so I don't have dark vision, so it looks like I'm going to have to light my lantern. And am I able to hook that lantern on my belt, or is it too big?
Zephyr's lantern can definitely hook onto his belt. It's a bit bulky, but it'll do the job. As he lights it, the carvings on the wall seem to writhe in the flickering light, and that rhythmic thumping gets a little louder. What's Zephyr's next move?
Can I pinpoint where this thumping is coming from?
Zephyr can try to pinpoint the thumping. It seems to be coming from deeper within the temple, but the sound echoes off the stone walls, making it hard to tell exactly where. Maybe a perception or investigation check would help.
Yeah, before I go down, I want to see exactly the dimensions of this hall. Like, is it 5 by, like, how tall is the ceiling and how wide is the hall?
The entrance hall is pretty big, about 30 feet wide and 50 feet long, with a high ceiling about 40 feet up. It's mostly empty. except for some faded carvings on the walls and a couple of old, dusty braziers. At the far end, there's a dark opening leading deeper into the temple. What does Zephyr do?
I'm going to walk cautiously to the end of the hall.
Zephyr moves cautiously down the hall, rapier at the ready. The rhythmic thumping grows louder with each step. As he nears the opening, he notices the air shimmers slightly like heat haze right before the doorway. What does Zephyr do?
Oh, is that like something invisible? I'm definitely going to use my perception. I want to see if something is lurking right in front of the door.
Zephyr's on high alert. He focuses on the shimmering air, trying to see if anything's lurking nearby. Roll a perception check. The DC is 14.
Can you roll that for me and add my modifier, please?
Zephyr's perception roll is a 12, plus his modifier of +3 for a total of 15. He notices the shimmering air isn't just heat haze, it's a magical illusion masking the doorway. There's definitely something hidden there. What's Zephyr's next move?
Yeah, before we go further, I just want to know what my perception modifier is made up of. Like, what is my wisdom score, and do I have proficiency in it?
Zephyr's wisdom score is 8, and he's not proficient in perception, so his modifier is -1. He rolled a 16, so his total perception check is 15. The illusion is definitely magical, and there's... Okay, Zephyr's figured out the doorway is an illusion. He can try dispelling it with magic, searching for a hidden switch, or maybe even just walking right through. Illusions aren't always solid.
Yeah,
what does he do?
I forgot to ask when we made up the character, what spells do I have as a bard? Like, do I have spells as a bard?
As a bard, Zephyr definitely has spells. He knows 4 cantrips and 4 first-level spells. For cantrips, he has Dancing Lights, Mage Hand, Mending, and Vicious Mockery. For first-level spells, he has Charm Person, Healing Word, Thunder Wave, and Disguise Self.
Okay, I want to use Mage Hand. What components does Mage Hand have? Is it verbal, somatic, or material?
Mage Hand has verbal and somatic components, so Zephyr will need to speak the incantation and make the right gestures. It doesn't require any material components, so he's good to go. What's his plan?
Okay, I'm going to close my eyes, lift up my hands in front of me, and begin to move them around until I visualize magical hands emanating from my own. I'm going to use those hands to push through the illusion and see what happens.
Zephyr closes his eyes, focuses his mind, and 2 spectral hands appear, mimicking his own. He reaches out, and the hands pass right through the shimmering illusion. It ripples and distorts, revealing a dark, narrow passage beyond. What does Zephyr do?
I'm going to open my eyes and cancel my Mage Hand, take a sigh or take a deep breath, steel myself, and walk through the illusion with my rapier in my hand.
Zephyr steels himself, takes a deep breath, and steps through the illusion. The passage beyond is narrow and damp, the air thick with the smell of mildew. The rhythmic thumping is much louder now, echoing off the stone walls. What does Zephyr do?
Well, my lantern should illuminate this room that I'm in, right? So what do I see?
The passage is narrow and damp, the air thick with the smell of mildew. The rhythmic thumping is much louder now, echoing off the stone walls. His lantern reveals a short passage ending in a wooden door reinforced with iron bands. It looks old and heavy, and the thumping seems to be coming from right behind it. What does Zephyr do?
I'm going to approach the door, I'm going to sheath my rapier, and I'm going to examine the door and see if I'm able to open it.
Zephyr approaches the door. It's old and heavy, reinforced with iron bands, and there's no handle or keyhole in sight. It looks like it might be locked or sealed shut. Zephyr can try to force it open, look for a hidden mechanism, or maybe even use magic. What's his move?
Right, did you say Mage Hand was a cantrip, or was it one of my first level spells?
Mage Hand is a cantrip, so Zephyr can cast it an unlimited number of times. It has a range of 30 feet and lasts for 1 minute. It can't attack, activate magic items, or carry more than 10 pounds, but it's great for things like opening doors from a distance. Does Zephyr want to try Mage Hand, or does he have another idea?
No, I'm going to take a step back by about 10 feet. I'm going to again close my eyes, and I'm going to bring my hands together, focusing, and summon my mage hand spell, whispering the proper words, and I'm going to punch the door with my summoned mage hand in hopes that it can knock it down.
Zephyr steps back, focuses, and sends his mage hand smashing into the door. It shudders under the force, but holds firm. The rhythmic thumping from behind it gets even louder, and there's a distinct creaking sound. Does Zephyr want to try again, or does he have another idea?
I'm going to use my mage hand to move along the seams of the door, just to see if perhaps the door is able to be opened by force, or if I'm going to have to look for a different way.
Zephyr's mage hand explores the door's seams. It's definitely reinforced, but there's no give. Maybe there's a hidden latch or mechanism nearby. What does Zephyr want to try next?
Yeah, it looks like force isn't going to do the job, is it?
That's right, the door's not budging. Maybe Zephyr could try looking for a hidden switch or a pressure plate nearby, or perhaps there's something written on the door itself. What does he do?
Well, I'm going to investigate the door then with my investigation skill. Should I make a roll, or is it automatic?
Zephyr's going to need to make a roll. The DC is 14. What's the roll?
What's my modifier for investigation?
Zephyr's intelligence score is 13, and he's not proficient in investigation, so his modifier is +1. What's the roll?
Go ahead and roll for me, Gemini.
Alright, Zephyr's investigation roll is a 12, plus his modifier of +1, for a total of 13. He runs his hands over the door, feeling for anything out of the ordinary. The iron bands are cold and solid, and the wood beneath is rough and worn. He notices a small, almost invisible seam running along the bottom edge of the door, but it doesn't seem to be a handle or latch. What's Zephyr's next move?
I don't know. Is there a way that I can open this door by looking at it?
Zephyr can try examining the door more closely. Maybe there's a symbol or inscription that stands out, or a part of the door that looks different from the rest. He could also try pressing on different parts of the door to see if anything gives way. What does he do?
Did I succeed at that investigation? Sorry, I must have misheard you.
My bad. Zephyr rolled a 12 plus his +1 modifier for a total of 13, so he didn't quite make the DC of 14, but he did notice a small seam running along the bottom edge of the door. It doesn't seem to be a handle or latch, but it could be a clue. Does Zephyr want to try anything else?
Well, I would like to try investigation again, but am I just allowed to keep trying investigation forever? Because in my games, I normally don't let players investigate more than once if they fail. So what's your ruling?
That's a great question. In this case, since Zephyr is looking for something specific, he can keep trying, but each failed attempt will make it a little harder. Maybe he gets distracted by the thumping, or the light from his lantern starts to flicker. What does he do?
I'm going to keep investigating then. I'm going to focus on the seam at the bottom.
Alright, Zephyr's focusing on that seam at the bottom of the door. He runs his fingers along it, feeling for any give or a hidden latch. It's a tight fit, but he notices a tiny indentation right where the seam meets the frame. It's almost too small to see, but it might be a button or a pressure plate. What does Zephyr do?
Sure, let's interact with that and see if it has any effect.
Zephyr presses the tiny indentation. There's a soft click, and the door rumbles slightly. The rhythmic thumping from behind it stops for a moment, then resumes, louder than before. The door doesn't open, but something definitely happened. What's Zephyr's next move?
Well, now that that has happened, I'm going to take another step back, so 10 feet in total, close my eyes, cast my mage hand spell with the arcane words, and again put my hands together and slam the ethereal fist into the door in hopes that it gives now.
Alright, Zephyr steps back, casts Mage Hand, and slams the door again. This time, there's a loud crack, and a section of the door splinters. The rhythmic thumping stops completely, and there's a low growl from behind the door. It sounds angry. What does Zephyr do?
I'm going to pull my rapier and kick the remnants of the door so that I can see inside.
Zephyr kicks the splintered door, and it crashes inward, revealing a dimly lit chamber. In the center, a massive iron golem stands hunched over, its eyes glowing red. It raises a huge, hammer-like fist and roars, "Intruder!" What does Zephyr do?
Holy crap, I can't fight one of those things, can I?
An iron golem is a tough opponent, especially for a bard. It's immune to non-magical weapons, resistant to most spells, and hits like a truck. Zephyr might be able to outsmart it, but fighting it head-on is risky. Does he want to try and talk his way out of this, or does he have another plan?
Can you tell me what my vicious mockery spell does?
Zephyr unleashes a string of insults, laced with subtle enchantments at the golem. It has to make a wisdom saving throw or take 1d4 psychic damage and have disadvantage on its next attack roll. The golem doesn't seem impressed, but it does hesitate for a moment. What does Zephyr do?
So did my vicious mockery spell succeed? Because I just really wanted to know what it did.
Vicious Mockery is a cantrip that lets Zephyr unleash a string of insults laced with subtle enchantments. If the golem can hear him, it has to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the golem takes 1d4 psychic damage and has disadvantage on its next attack roll. So it's not a super damaging spell, but it can definitely throw an enemy off their game.
Right, okay, can you roleplay what that vicious mockery would be like if Zephyr was to say it to the golem? And I would like to cast that spell now.
In a booming metallic voice, your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. Now begone, you oversized tin can. The golem has to make a wisdom saving throw. It rolls a 12 and its wisdom modifier is +0, so it fails. The golem takes 2 psychic damage and has disadvantage on its next attack roll. It seems a bit stunned by the barrage of insults. What does Zephyr do?
What other spells do I have?
Okay, besides Vicious Mockery, Zephyr also has Dancing Lights, Mage Hand, and Mending as cantrips. For first level spells, he has Charm Person, Healing Word, Thunder Wave, and Disguise Self.
Will Charm Person work on the golem if I cast it?
Since the golem is a construct, Charm Person won't work on it. Constructs are immune to being charmed. Does Zephyr have another plan?
Yeah, I'd like to cast Dancing Lights on the other side of the room so that the golem's attention is away from myself.
Zephyr gestures, and 4 glowing orbs of light appear on the other side of the chamber, flitting and dancing in the air. The golem's glowing red eyes follow the lights for a moment, its massive head turning slightly. It seems intrigued, but not entirely distracted. What is this? Magic? It rumbles, its attention still mostly on Zephyr. What does he do? The only way out is past the golem. Zephyr could try attacking it, but that's risky. He could also try casting another spell, or maybe even try to trick the golem into letting him pass. What's his move?
Let's try a round of combat. Do I need to roll initiative?
You bet. Roll for initiative.
Can you roll for me, Gemini? And make sure you add my initiative bonus, okay?
Zephyr rolls a 12 for initiative, plus his +2 bonus for a total of 14. The golem rolls a 10, plus its +0 bonus, for a total of 10. Zephyr's up first. What does he do?
Well, I want to see how far this goes, so I'm going to lunge at the golem with my rapier and just see how much of an effect I can have against it. Can you go ahead and roll my attack roll, adding all my modifiers?
Zephyr lunges at the golem with his rapier, striking with a 15 plus his +5 modifier for a total of 20. The golem's AC is 20, so it's a hit. Roll 1d8 for damage.
Go ahead and roll for me.
Zephyr's rapier strikes the golem, dealing 3 piercing damage. The golem's tough hide absorbs most of the blow, and it roars in anger. Foolish mortal, you cannot harm me, it booms. What does Zephyr do?
I'm going to run.
Alright, Zephyr tries to dash past the golem. It's huge and slow, but that hammer of its looks like it could cover the distance in a single swing. Roll a dexterity saving throw to see if he can make it past without getting smashed.
You can go ahead and roll the dexterity saving throw. What's my modifier for my dex saves?
Zephyr's dexterity modifier is +2, so his dexterity saving throw is a 16. Unfortunately, that's not enough to avoid the golem's attack. The golem swings its massive hammer, and Zephyr takes 10 bludgeoning damage. What does Zephyr do?
What's my total hit points and my current hit points?
Zephyr's still standing, but he's got to be careful. What does he do?
Well, I'm going to run. Back the way I came.
Okay, Zephyr turns and runs back the way he came, but the golem is surprisingly fast. It lunges after him, its hammer whistling through the air. Roll another dexterity saving throw to see if Zephyr can avoid the attack.
Go ahead and roll it for me, Gemini.
Okay, Zephyr rolls a 17 on his dexterity saving throw, plus his +2 modifier for a total of 19. He manages to dodge the golem's hammer and escape the chamber. Zephyr can now see a long hallway stretching out before him, dimly lit by flickering torches. The rhythmic thumping is gone, replaced by an eerie silence. What does Zephyr do?
Yeah, I'm going to double time it and get the heck out of this chamber and run back into the woods beyond.
Okay, Zephyr's free to go. He can double time it back to the woods, or maybe take a quick look around the chamber for anything interesting before he leaves.
No. I'm getting out of here.
Alright, Zephyr hightails it out of the chamber and back into the woods. He bursts through the illusionary doorway and doesn't stop running until he's deep into the trees, the sounds of the dungeon fading behind him. He's safe for now, but he can't shake the feeling that he's being watched. What does Zephyr do?
I'm going to shake my head and comment to myself, I don't know why I ever thought this was a good idea, and head back to the town to reunite with my friend and maybe have a good dinner and a drink and a laugh.
Sounds like a plan. Zephyr heads back to town, eager to reunite with his friend and put this whole crazy adventure behind him. As he walks, he can't help but wonder what that golem was guarding, and whether he'll ever find out.
Thanks, Gemini. That was a really great short little adventure. Can you pause this adventure and maybe we'll pick it up next time with Zephyr?
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've saved our place, so we can continue Zephyr's adventure another time.
How do I continue the adventure next time?
If you'd like to continue Zephyr's adventure, just let me know.
Okay, thanks, Gemini. We'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. I'll be here when you're ready to continue Zephyr's adventure. Alright, adventurers, that's a wrap for tonight's session. I hope you all had a blast, battling goblins, uncovering ancient secrets, and narrowly escaping that collapsing dungeon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more epic quests, and remember, the greatest treasure is the friends we make along the way. Until next time, may your dice roll high and your adventures be legendary.